Lisa Rubel, and I'm here today to talk about Block 6 in the Rainbow Kaleidoscope Block of the Month from Sit and Sew Fabrics. If you look behind me on the wall, you can see this quilt done in yellows and grays and whites. And for this year, we've reimagined those quilt blocks in a rainbow of colors. And here's a look at what the quilt looks like. Each month, you make a block using one color from the rainbow plus black and white. And for block number 6, the color that we're working with is lime green. And we're going to be recreating this block right here. And you can see what it looks like in lime and black instead. Really stands out, really sharp looking block. So the video that you'll be watching will show you how to make this block, and it will be showing it to you in the yellow and gray versions, but with our new kit, yours will turn out looking just like this. And you can see down the side here, I've got all of the blocks that we've done so far in our rainbow colorway. An aqua, a lavender, orange, royal blue, yellow. Now we're adding in lime green, and then we've got 6 more to go to make our entire rainbow. If you're sewing along with us already, fantastic. And if you'd like to join in, head to sitandsewfabrics.com and look for the Rainbow Kaleidoscope Block of the Month kit. You'll receive those 12 fat quarters, black and white yardage for the blocks, and an awesome colorful print for the border. I hope you'll join in the fun to make this great rainbow quilt. Hi, I'm Lisa Rubel of Love to Color My World, and today I'm going to walk you through the steps to put together Block 6 in the Sunshine and Shadows Block of the Month quilt. You can see it right here on the quilt behind me, and it is made up of 8 rectangles. We've got 4 gray rectangles and 4 yellow rectangles, and then white squares for the corners. So let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is draw a diagonal line on the wrong side of 2 white squares. And if you're using a white on white tonal fabric like I am, you're going to want to double check that you've got the wrong side up, because sometimes it can be hard to tell. So I'm going to draw my diagonal lines. And then I'm going to position them on my yellow rectangle. So my first one is going to go with the diagonal heading towards the upper right corner. And then I'm going to stitch on that line and fold this back. And the second one, which we'll do afterwards, will go parallel to that. So I've got my square stitched on. Now it's time to trim it. I'm going to align a 1/4 inch seam allowance on my stitched and drawn line, and then trim off that excess square. Take it over to my iron. I like to give it a little press to set the stitches before I press that corner open. Okay, so I've got my first corner on, and now I'll be laying the second piece like this. Now this is almost a flying geese unit. You can see if I angled it so that my drawn line went like this, when you fold it back, you get that triangle shape for a flying geese. But instead, we're going to do it parallel to our first seam, and that will give us this diamond or parallelogram shape that makes up our block units. Okay, same thing with this one. Going to line up a 1/4 inch line on my ruler on my stitched and drawn line, remove that triangle, and press it open. So here's one of my block units. I'm going to make 8 of these, 2 in each of the yellows and 2 in each of the grays, and then we'll look at putting the block together. So here's a quick tip for piecing all of these units. I like to chain piece them, do them all for one side at the same time for 2 reasons. First of all, it saves you time and thread because you're not clipping between each one. And second of all, by doing that, you can make sure that all of your squares are lined up in the same direction, so your parallel parallelogram points in the correct direction. So I sewed all of the squares onto my rectangles, and then I'm going to trim each of them, press them open, and then I'll go through and sew the square onto the opposite end of all of them in the same way. So once you've got all 8 of your block units pieced, it's time to lay them out. We're going to lay them out in pairs. So the first gray pair is going to go horizontally. And then the first yellow pair is going to go vertically. And then the second gray pair will go horizontally again. And the second yellow pair will go vertically again. So we're going to sew the pairs together, and then we'll have 4 quarter block units, and we'll join those together. So I'm going to move some of these out of the way, and let's look at joining 2 of these together. So at first glance, it looks like you don't have to worry about seams joining like you would, say, in a 4-patch. Actually, you do, and I'm going to show you a trick for that. So what we're going to do is flip this over on top, and what you want to do is find the spot about 1/4 inch down where the seam on this side aligns with the seam on that side, because that way after you sew it, when you open it up, you can see I'm just holding it here, but this diagonal line extends. It's not over a little bit that way or that way, but it extends straight down, and that's what happens when you match up those seam lines. So what I'm going to do is take a pin, and I'm going to put it through where the seam is at the front about 1/4 inch down, and then just kind of feel and try to hit that seam on the back side. Now if I flip it over, I see that I did hit the seam, so I'm going to put a pin in there. And if I had not, I would just keep trying again. It's sort of a trial and error thing because you can't look at both sides at the same time. So I'm going to put in a couple pins, and I'm going to sew with 1/4 inch seam allowance down here, going through that point where my pin is hitting the seam. So you want to leave that pin in as long as possible so that you have the best opportunity to get right there and get a nice match. Okay, let's take a look at how I did. So if you look, there's a tiny bit of overlap, but essentially that line goes right through. So I'm happy with it. I'm going to press it. And this is a spot where you may want to consider pressing the seams open, just because with that sort of double diagonal seam, there can be a lot of bulk in the middle. So it's okay if you want to press them to one side, but this is a place where pressing them open is not a bad idea. Okay, so there's my first quarter block unit, and I'm going to make 3 more of those, and then we'll join those together to complete our block. So I've got all 4 of my quarter block units made, and now we're going to assemble our block. We're going to start out by joining the blocks into 2 rows, and then we'll join the rows together to complete the block. Now the only thing you need to know here is similar to the last, we need to put in a pin to mark up where some seams meet. And so in this case, it's going to be our diagonal seam here, and then the join on the back where that point is from that gray. So I'm going to put my pin through, and I can see I'm on the seam on this side, and flip it over and see I'm a little bit low. So I'm going to put it in a little bit higher. That's a good spot. And then secure it and put in 2 more. So then when I'm stitching, I'm going to aim right for where that pin goes in, because I know that's where my seams join, and that's how I'll end up with the points. So I'm going to do that for both rows, and then do the same to join the rows together to complete our block. Ta-da! Here's block number 6, all complete. We've got our yellow and gray parallelograms, and then the white corners that add interest around the outside and create this square in the middle, which will be a lot of fun for machine quilting. So now we're halfway done with the blocks for our full sunshine and shadows quilt. And if you need to catch up or you've missed any of them, don't forget there's a video tutorial for each one. And next month, we'll be working on this star block for block number 7. So happy sewing this month. I look forward to seeing you next month.